Baruch Hashem, you're a bad Jew.
Shalom.
Hey, come on in. Welcome back to another episode of Bad Jew, the place where there is no such thing as a bad Jew. And with me today, coming back on the show for the second time, is Shoshanna Stein. Her last episode on my podcast was How Can I Fight This War? It was right after October 7th. Jews were feeling helpless and wondering, we still feel helpless, but we're always wondering, what can we do to possibly fight? I'm just one individual Jew living in the diaspora. What can we do? And Shoshanna Stein gave an incredibly articulate and fine answer in that last episode. Today, she's here because she's already done her 4-minute Bad Jew challenge. She's already passed the right of entry out of the podcast. She doesn't have to introduce herself again. She completed it. She's done. Shoshanna, how are you today?
I'm so good. How are you? It's so good to see you again.
It's great to see you too. And I'm honored that you're here on the show again. Thank you again for being on this podcast. What prompted this episode is that you're always sending me content, which I always love. And I always love how much you teach me from afar, even when we're not on the air. We have a lot of amazing conversations off screen as well. And some of our most valuable conversations have happened off screen as well. And I'm always very honored that you take that time to talk with me, little humble old me. So I really do appreciate it.
I'm humbled and honored by you. Humbled and honored by you.
That's so sweet. But what I think the big thing for me that I really wanted to talk with you about, something that you brought up in a previous conversation, which is about Jewish identity, where it's going, and particularly in America, we're able to more so talk about this. But in this particular episode, I want to focus on what is happening to the Jewish identity in the diaspora, and is it at risk?
So it's such an important topic, especially now, because I'm sure you've heard this expression, now more than ever, now more than ever, now more than ever. So that sentiment of really, we need to know where we're heading, we need to know who we are, and we need to know how we're getting there. And if we don't know who we are and we're not sure of our identity, then it's almost impossible to get to where you need to go, right? So this idea of Jewish identity, is it at risk? Let me tell you a crazy statistic. This is going to blow your mind. 80% of non-Shomer Shabbat Jews will assimilate.
And assimilate meaning marry into a non-Jewish
Within
family.
1 to 2 generations, there will be no more of that Jewish family. So but listen to the other side. 3% of Shomer Shabbat will assimilate. Shocking, no? Think about the difference there. So if you are not Shomer Shabbat, at least, and Shomer Shabbat is this idea of Shomer Torah and mitzvos to a basic degree, right? Like the gold standard of Judaism is Shabbos, right? Shabbos is our crown jewel and our beautiful day of rest and Hashem's day of rest, and so much happens, so much energy happens on that day. So if you're not at least watching the Shabbat, guarding the Shabbat, honoring the Shabbat, then there is an 80% chance that your grandchildren will not be Jewish.
It's a wild thing to say. And I've heard from every single one of my peers, and my peers being me in my late 20s. I have friends that range all throughout the early 20s to late 20s to even early 30s. And most of them don't keep Shabbat. And most of them through something called Moishe House, which is a really wonderful program. I'm actually a part of it, but I'm actually just announced that I'm leaving it soon because of my religious journey.
It sounds like a cool spot.
It's a really great organization, but because of how secular the organization has been created, and I really do admire that they are empowering Jews by letting them create their own programs. It's very adult,
Right.
very trustworthy. There's a lot of great things about the organization, but the one thing that I've noticed is that there isn't an emphasis on the religious aspects of it. And technically that means that you could do whatever you want during a holiday. And a lot of the events that I've been to, I've noticed, oh yeah, they're really not following Shabbat. They're like not,
Right.
they call it Shabbat. But there's nothing here that's Shabbat about it besides people getting together for a dinner table and everyone's texting and maybe doing karaoke. And these are things that you don't do or want to keep Shabbat. So the events are fun and they're engaging. That's great.
Yeah.
But you're right. So they're not keeping Shabbat. And so you're saying that
Well,
all my friends
that you are only strict keeping Shabbat. When I say that you're guarding Shabbat, I don't mean it that it's a black and white thing. I mean, that is the baseboard of where celebrating Judaism starts, Shabbos. And if you're celebrating your Judaism, it's going to start on Shabbos, right? Shabbat is the time that you could feel most Jewish, feel the most energy, the most connected, the most disconnected from other things. So for me, when I say guarding Shabbat, I don't mean like the strict observance of it, although yes, that is definitely a part of it. But guarding Shabbat, guarding Judaism as a base part of your life is where the difference of 3% assimilation for those who guard the Shabbat and honor the Shabbat from the 80% who don't, which is wild. And so I think there is the risk. There is the risk. And there needs to be paid special attention to what it means to honor and guard Shabbat. And then this other conversation of what is it about Shabbat that makes it that clear cut? What is that? And I think that those finding within yourself, like, why am I a Jew now? What does it mean to be a Jew at this moment?
Sure.
And I don't mean from the halachic point of view, although yes, of course, it's important to know the halacha, but like it's so much more being a Jew. We talk about this all the time, you and I, about that it's a living thing. It's a living, breathing thing. It's how you behave, how you think, how you feel, how you process your feelings, how you process your interactions, the faith that you have when you're interacting with someone, that God is there with you. You know, there's this very divine way of living and very elevated way of living besides just following the halachot and keeping everything strict. And I find that the identity of a Jew is so much more meaningful than, are you strictly kosher? Are you strictly shomer Shabbat? Those are the identity questions I want to talk about. We can talk about the halacha, no problem.
Right.
I really feel like now, more than ever, it's time for us to find out, what does it mean for me, Shoshanna, to be a Jew? And for you, it's going to be something else. And we need to search for this. We need, like you told me the other day, I needed clarity. And I searched for it and I got clarity. And we need clarity now more than ever. And the answer is in us being Jews. Your answers are all within yourself.
Let's break this down from a practical standpoint, because he said something really fascinating. Because obviously, being Jewish does not mean you're following a bunch of rules that something omnipotent over you created. There's a lot more to being Jewish than that.
Right.
But at the same time, those are the practical, tangible things that we could grasp onto that make someone Jewish in a lot of ways. What are some of the other practical ideas how to embrace Judaism that people don't automatically look towards?
You've heard of this idea of mindfulness, being present. Imagine a person who isn't entirely observant, right? Or isn't, let's say, keeping strict kosher or strict Shabbat or following the other halachot. Imagine this person wakes up in the morning and is grateful to the creator of the universe and says, I'm so grateful that I can breathe and that I can, my limbs, I can go to the bathroom. Thank you for that I'm not blind. Thank you that I'm not going through all the brachot in the morning and actually like saying them out loud. And then he goes from that and he gets ready for the day, gets dressed because he's a king and he wants to walk around like that. And this mindfulness, this attention to everything that he does, because he knows that whatever he's doing is going to affect everything else. So the Torah and mitzvos are gearing us to be able to connect in a mindful way to every single moment, because every moment is perfect. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. So the Torah and mitzvos sort of gear you to this mindfulness, presence, stillness. I am here. I am now. I'm with Hashem. Hashem is here with me. This Ein Sof, that there's no past, there's no future. There's just now. And what an incredible spiritual way of living, even if you're not following, let's say, the halachot, but just this mindfulness that there is so much purpose in everything, every moment, every second. Just connecting to that alone is so deep. And then a whole nother conversation about tikkun olam, about interacting with every human being or every living being that comes across me. I have a responsibility towards them because of that perfection, because there is no mistakes in this world. So if I am in the presence of another human being, it's divinely inspired. It's supposed to be. So I have to pay attention. I have to be mindful. I have to be present. I have to think of this person. I have to make space for this person. I have to remove judgment. You know, there's a lot that goes into being mindful and present. And those are Torah values. Those are things that we learn. There's a whole book just on how to process your feelings in any given situation so that you can be a mensch. Amazing. Midot.
It's huge. It's huge. Even in like the annoying instance where you're walking through a confined space, you stub your toe, it's painful. That's a perfect moment too, just based on that idea.
Yeah, of course. Imagine the difference, the chain effect, the ripple effect of one scenario versus the other. I stub my toe, I curse, I'm angry, it's throbbing, I'm banging my arm against now my arm hurts and I'm cursing and I'm just so mad and my whole body fills with tension and not good feelings. Everything is tight. My chest is tight. My muscles are tight. My head starts to pulse, anger, like I'm just mad. Or I stub my toe. It's pulsing. And instead of letting the negative reaction, I immediately say, thank you, Hashem, or kapara banot, or just this is for something else. Take it for something else. And thank you, Hashem, even for the pain, because I could stop in this moment and sing your praises and give you honor and say, even a stubbed toe deserves God's honor. Wow, just me saying that to you right now, my body is in a completely different state. And I'm not even experiencing what we're talking about, but I have goosebumps and I think, yeah, that makes so much more sense. Like my body feels much better. So even from a practical point of view, it's elevated. Even from a physical point of view, it's elevated. And a spiritual point of view, it's elevated. So even a stubbed toe can really be a moment of really great heights and very holy spiritual connection between me and the creator of the universe, which is exactly what he wants.
I think that's really beautiful and amazing. I could get into how much I love certain prayers that I would never think to pray for. As the listeners know by now, I had just come back from Israel and I did a lot of studying there. And so a lot of things I did was I was taking on a lot of the prayers, the tefillot. One of the prayers that I'm very close to memorizing right now is the bathroom prayer. And the bathroom prayer is, you would never think, oh, this is a holy moment, your time in the bathroom. In fact, a lot of people assume that it's a very unholy thing to do, to just expel your body. But the prayer is crazy because, first of all, the prayer itself is literally about your holes working. The holes that need to say open, open, the holes that need to say close, close, so that way I can worship you. And that's such a crazy thing to say out loud, that it's the only prayer I know that directly acknowledges how complicated human anatomy is and all the different variables that it requires for you to stay alive and be present right here and right now. It's become one of my favorite blessings. And it's just funny, but I get it. It's not funny how it actually just has like a meaning to it. It makes me think very differently about my time in the bathroom. So
because there's no mistakes. God created it all,
Right.
We're not discovering the bathroom. Like he created us just like that. And he gave us the way to acknowledge the perfection of the human body and the way that everything works so simultaneously and beautifully. It's just so incredible. And if the creator of the universe wants us to acknowledge these things, and it's important, I always say that there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes in the Torah. There's no mistakes in the laws. And there's something about following laws. Not every human being is meant to follow every single law. I don't know if it's possible. I hope to achieve that one day, that I am able to do that. But I feel like the mitzvot that you yearn to do, that you love to do, that are easy for you, and the ones that like make you feel alive and make you feel like there's something there. Like it's not by mistake that you love those mitzvot. And the mitzvot that you don't like so much are the ones that are a little more difficult. That's not a mistake either. There's message there. There's what we can learn about ourselves. Even in those, just reading between those lines, there's so much. And that's what I love about Judaism, is how rich it is and how vibrant and multidimensional. It's just this incredible way of living that provides something that doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
Let's go back to something you brought up at the beginning. You brought up that you're 80% more likely to have non-Jewish children when you assimilate.
When you aren't observant of Shabbat. So Shabbat is the minimum, the barometer of where you're going to fall in terms of assimilation.
Got it. Okay. So being said, even if, let's say, you decided to marry non-Jewish, you entered into an interfaith marriage, which at some point I got to bring on someone to talk about interfaith marriage on the podcast. So if you are out there and you're listening and you have someone that you'd love to introduce and recommend, please do email us at badjewpop@gmail.com. That'd be huge, because we really would like to have a productive conversation about that. You don't have to be in agreement with this idea at all. In fact, I would love it even more if you had a differing opinion on the subject matter. Okay, so 80% more likely to assimilate when you don't keep Shabbat. I know that this episode is not about keeping Shabbat, but I guess what I want to know is, are there other ways to be connected to the Jewish community without practicing
course.
Shabbat in any way?
Of course. If I look at it from a spiritual point of view, Shabbos is the gateway of holiness that comes through to the world every week. And the receivers of that energy are the Jewish people. It is our job to receive the holiness from Shabbos so that we can give it to the rest of the world, because we are the connector between the creator of the universe and the rest of humanity. Hashem gave us the Torah and the way of connecting the physical and the spiritual. So we are the connector. We are the missing link. So if we're not observing Shabbat in a way that we can bring down that energy, we can bring it into the world, we're not doing a main part of our purpose. And our purpose is to bring that spirituality, to be a light among the nations, to bring light out. So in my opinion, Shabbos is really a big factor in us being the receiving of Hashem's energy so that we can bring it, doing Torah and mitzvos. Is it the most important? No. Is it the only way? No. But that's probably why it's that kind of wild statistic that 80% assimilation rate for non-Shomer Shabbat and 3% assimilation rate for Shomer Shabbat Jews. So I'm assuming that's why, because there's a lot of energy that needs to be brought then. But of course it's not. Every Jew should find what brings them close. Hashem just wants us to be close to him. He just wants us to seek him in the good, the bad, and the moments in the bathroom. I don't even know if that's terrible to say that, but just be mindful that we are a part of Hashem. We have a part of him in us, and the job of being connected brings all of this amazing energy to the world. Just being mindful of that, it's such a beautiful thing. And then when you go into Shabbos and you're doing all of these holy, beautiful things and making these blessings and doing all of these rituals that open up even more vessels and more channels, it makes sense. There's no other way in Judaism throughout the week to bring that much. I would urge if you are a Jew, if you're watching this, why are you a Jew? Ask yourself that. Spend 20 minutes a day contemplating that. What does it mean to be a Jew for myself? What does it mean? Why am I a Jew? It's not by mistake. And it's going to look different for you and for me and for someone else. And it should. And that's exactly what Hashem wants. Hashem doesn't want all Jews to look the same. He wants, within the experience that you're having, to be aware of that he created us, that there's purpose, there's meaning, and there are those lessons that you learn in everything, and that growth that you get from things. And by going through things, that kind of experience, amazing, right? What a beautiful way of connecting. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but the halachot, they're good. They have their purpose too. And I wanted to tell you a really interesting analogy I heard once. It's good. It goes together. So there's a guy, he's a super master diver, and he's being sent on a very dangerous, very long diving mission. And he gets on this crazy boat, and he has this whole orientation, the wetsuit, the air thing. It's a super long tube, and he's always going to have oxygen. He's always going to be connected to the boat, but he's going to go under for a really, really long time, and he has a very long mission. And the most important thing they keep drilling into him is, do not forget that you have oxygen in the back of your wetsuit and you are attached to the boat. Do not forget that you have this oxygen and you are attached to the boat and you're on a mission. Don't forget. Because I'm not going to forget. I promise I'm not going to forget. And he goes into the ocean and he's swimming around and he starts doing off his checklist of all the things he's supposed to be doing because he was on a mission. And then all of a sudden he's looking around and he sees the fishes and they're not looking at him funny. He's with the sea fish and he's with the stingrays and the dolphins and the sharks. And nobody's bothering him. And he starts to think, I'm a fish. I'm not a guy on a mission anymore. I'm a fish. And time goes on and he really gets comfortable with the fact that he is like every other creature that he is surrounded by. He forgets that he has a mission, and he forgets that he's connected to a boat that has a captain that's waiting for him to complete this diver's mission that he's done. And the allegory is, the Jewish people are the fishermen. We are that man in the wetsuit that Hashem has sent here on a mission to connect the physical and the spiritual, and to be that connector, that link between humanity and godliness. And we have forgotten that mission because we've gotten so comfortable in this ocean with the stingrays and the dolphins and the coral. And it's so beautiful down here. And it's just so incredible. So we are sort of lost. And we have to remember that we are connected to this boat, and that Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wants us to yearn for him. He just wants us to remember, just to remember that there is a boat and that there is a connection. If you go on with your mission after that, if you don't, just remember that we are connected. And that's a fact, So when you remember that, you think, oh, wait, I have more to think about, right? If I'm connected to this holy, amazing creator energy, and if I am part of Ein Sof, then, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to stand up a little bit stronger. I'm going to think of myself a little bit better. I'm a little holier. I need to pay attention to this. I need to pay attention to that. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. Okay, I want to do more chesed. I want to do more tzedakah. I want to be kinder. I want to be more gracious. I want to be less judgmental. That is the Jewish way. Remembrance of who we are, our essence.
Love that. Thank you for that. So of all this entire conversation made me think about something that I wasn't planning on bringing up, actually. And that is that my family, which is, I was raised conservative, but I'm speaking of specifically outside family, of extended family here. I have some family that's based in the United Kingdom, and they're very secular, but so much so that my cousin married a non-Jew. And by the way, their family is beautiful. Their family is charming. I love the entire family. I got to start out by saying that they're very into their rugby. They're very into staying fit, and they're very tough people, but they have that British charm. They're very sweet. And, one thing that occurred to me is that I guess it's my first cousins removed or my second cousins removed who are named after my grandparents. They don't know they're Jewish because it's from the mother's side. And so what's interesting is that I have these two kids who are so cute, and they see me going through my Jewish journey every time they visit me. Every time I see them, there's always like a little bit more that I'm like,
you're like, you talk about these strings.
yeah. I haven't told them about. They haven't seen me with CC yet. They don't know about it even yet. They're seeing me go through this, and every time I see them, I've always been tempted to say, you're Jewish, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a little scared too.
Yeah.
And here's why. First of all, I don't know what kind of family drama that might cause. How dare you? How dare you try to parent on my behalf? It's not your job, right? Crazy Uncle Charlie all the way overseas. That's what they call me, is Charlie. Except they call me Uncle Charlie. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The second thing is they, especially being in the UK, I know this episode has been focused on America. In the UK right now, you have what many are calling a national tragedy in London, where you have just riots of Muslims filling up the streets and raining havoc, actively hunting people, hunting Jews and anyone who supports Israel. It is not a good time to be visibly Jewish in London right now.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And the king is not doing much to bring in national security, at least last I checked. That might be different now from the time this episode airs, but it's not a good place to be Jewish right now in London. And I fear, as a side note, that any diasporic identity of Judaism, it's going to be more hard to pursue that life, to be able to live that Jewish life without Israel. I think that's really one of the things that you haven't had the chance to talk about in this episode yet, is outside of just ourselves choosing not to marry into Judaism or not to keep Shabbat or not to keep the prayers. We have all these external factors out there that are making it harder and harder to be Jewish.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot easier if we were all in Israel. But,
that's where we're supposed to be.
Definitely.
That's probably why, because we're just not supposed to be there. And the other nations know that, they see that, they recognize it without understanding what they're doing. They recognize that we actually don't belong there, and we belong in Eretz Yisrael. We are Jews from Judea, and we need to build the Beis Hamikdash, and we need to heal our nation. And I think that is the most important thing that we can do now. And that starts with now,
Right.
Judaism, everything we do is for the land, So, but that's probably why it's difficult. And it's going to get difficult here because our history teaches us our future. And unless we come together with one voice and one essence and one nation, one soul to represent Jewish values, true Jewish values, without judgment and space for everyone, we're going to continue to get the same resistance from the other nations. My teacher says this, and she says, they recognize that we're not stepping up to the plate. We need to step up to the plate. We have the Torah, which is the path. We have the means. We have the ability to manifest in reality the Torah and the spiritual part. We can collectively, for sure. We just need to stop fighting with each other and agree to disagree. Literally, it's all good. There's no mistakes. Like, imagine like one Jew says to another Jew, no, you're wrong, or whatever, like, no, chas v'shalom, like Hashem created you both with both your opinions and both of your ways of thinking about it. And only with love can you come to a common place, right? Why would disagreement or conflict or pointing or words or saying nasty things to each other or fighting, why would that bring resolution? It never has and it never will. So I think as Jews, we can stop doing that. If we could step away from that part, we have God. He can be the judge. He wants us to accept each other and love each other. Everyone, all of us, everyone, without question, except the people that are trying to actively kill us. We can leave. They can, but it doesn't matter the differences and it doesn't matter the choices. And with your cousins, it's okay. There is perfection in the way that it is. And our job is to show up the best me version and not show up and tell you why you show up the best Jewish version of yourself. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I judge myself, I mind my own business, and I worry about myself and my level. And with that mentality, we could come together as a nation. And we're going to spread this, you and me, help me spread this idea of unity and acceptance and this non-judgmental approach to all Jews.
Amen. We need achdut.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a bad Jew. This is the place where there's no such thing as a bad Jew. We're supposed to be more united now than ever before. That's really why we're in the situation that we're in today, is that we weren't united. Yeah. And that's ultimately what risked Jewish identity. We could either, right now, we're at a flashpoint in Jewish culture. We can either, united in a way, decide that no one's right and just completely fall by our own demise. Or we can truly be a light in the nations. We can truly unite. We can truly follow the path.
Yeah.
And we can truly see the light.
We have nothing to lose. We could just see what happens. Like, imagine okay, what's going to happen if you try to keep Shabbat a few times? Like, I promise nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen, and see what happens to your soul when you try to connect to what you're doing in a mindful, present way with imagine the Jewish people worked on letting their egos aside. We don't always need to be right. It's not necessary at all. And it's actually not conducive for happy, healthy spiritual life. So we could just put the egos aside and leave that and just accept in the moment that everything is perfect, just the way that it is, because Hashem wants it this way. It's this way. He's not absent from our lives. He's here with us. It says that when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim, it says that Hashem was with them in their sorrow, with them in their slavery. And then when Hashem took us out, it says Hashem was with us when he took us out from Egypt. He's always with us. He's never not with us. He's with us in the pits of our despair and our worst moments. And he's with us in our highest moments. There isn't a moment that he's not with us. So how could that not be perfect, right? The way that it is, there's a destiny here that we are on the path of. We know what's going to happen at some point. So we can either collectively get together, stop judging each other, love each other, love the perfection, and bring Mashiach, or we can struggle some more, and it will still be a struggle. We can all move to Eretz Yisrael. It'd be great.
Well, I always love to end the episode on practical actions that people can take now when they learn the new idea.
Kindness.
And to lead with kindness, absolutely. You've nailed it. You already did my job for me. So thank you so much, Shoshanna, for being on the podcast, for explaining the Jewish identity needs to be strong right now, where we're currently at, where it's going. I really do appreciate it. One of the things we can do to strengthen our current Jewish identity. It really means so much. Shoshanna, you are on at My So-Called Jewish Life on Instagram and TikTok. Everyone should go follow her.
Thank you.
Please go follow her. And also, can you explain a little bit about the Keto project before we send off?
Yes. If you have your keto stickers, I sent you. So if you're interested in having keto stickers, send me a DM and I will mail them out to you. And the Keto Project is this idea of this perfection, that Hashem created everything with love and goodness. And we just have to seek that. And when we focus on that, even when we stub our toe and even when things aren't so good, we focus on the good, only good comes from that. Only good things come from that. Physically, spiritually, and actually in your life, things end up just working out better when we don't fight the experience. So the Keto Project is this idea of this, everything is okay, Kitov, everything's cool, everything's good. I don't have to worry about those details because Hashem has me, he loves me. And so that's this manifesting Jewish ideas in the moment, no mistakes.
Love it. Shoshanna, it's been a treat to have you on the podcast. And to the listeners, we'll see you next Wednesday on the next episode of Bad Jew.
Shalom.